Hey, everybody, I'm Ian Chadrick. I am a born-again hooligan, and you're watching Through the Black.
Are you ready? Bam. Bam. You know that feeling you get when you've been sick and then you have all this burst of energy?
No, I'm always.
Well, I don't have that. I have this. So it's called Charged Lemonade.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
It's not alcoholic, people. Don't start coming.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's not that kind of charged lemonade. This came from Panera. So say a little prayer for me. I did go there earlier.
Hey, Tom.
I don't like their prices, but I do like their atmosphere, and maybe that's what the surcharge is for.
Do you know the actual dictionary definition of hooligan?
No, I'm afraid to ask.
A violent young troublemaker, typically one of a gang.
Born again. Well,
they have to be young.
If he's born again, that means, he's no longer.
Yep, no longer a violent young troublemaker.
It's going to change the whole interview. Okay, we got some questions to ask. Okay, very good. I'm glad you did your homework there. So
yeah, I'm now done. That's all the research I did for this show.
Okay,
I'm out.
Yeah, well, hey, leave it to Vic to bring exposure. So do you want to lead with that?
Yeah. Violent against the kingdom of darkness. There we go.
That's the direction I was going in spiritual warfare. Folks, you're watching Through the Black. My name is Tom Dunn. And of course, I am joined every time with my host, Vicky Joy. If you want to get any of our t-shirts, which are on sale, you can go to throughtheblack.com. If you want to get registered for the conference, you can go to throughtheblack.com. That's coming up. Hey, as I mentioned before, they're having a meeting up in Boston. We're having a meeting down in Brookville, Ohio. So we are the Antichrist. We're going to have our meeting of resistance down there, praising God. And how should we say? Yes.
Raising the roof.
Yes. Populating heaven and plundering hell. Out of the Darkness Spiritual Warfare Conference, March 31st, April 1st. Greg Reed's going to be there. Mike Spalding, Coach Dave. Hey, our guest tonight, Ian Chadrick, is going to be there. Of course, Vicky, you, me, Colleen, Sean, all the Through the Black family, Kenny C.
Kenny, my little Kenny.
So it's going to be a great time. Come on out, folks. Hey, we're going to have the Shatter Ops team there. So for anybody that doesn't know, this is the team that this is a Shatter team that worked with Russ Dizdar. Okay. They used to be the SIIU, okay, which stood for Shatter Investigation and Intervention Unit. But now they're the Shatter Ops team. They're going to be there doing ministry with us. Man, it's going to be a great time of fellowship. This is going to be our focus. We want to get you guys out there, and we want to fellowship with you. And it's going to be a resistance meeting. Going to be a great time. So come on out. But hey, speaking of Brookville, Ohio and Dayton, Ohio, we have a local on the show tonight. It's our friend Ian. Man, I don't know. What are you going to say about this guy? How many times have I gotten a phone call over the last few years? And I look down at the caller ID. I'm like, okay, here we go. Just like jumping deep into the pool, right? And that's what we're going to do tonight. So let's bring on Ian Chadrick. What's going on, my friend?
What's up, everybody? I'm glad to be here.
Hey.
All right.
Well, we are glad to have you, man. My friend, I don't even know where to start. I know that that you are a jack of all trades, master of none. Is that right? Or
That's true. Born at a very young age.
Yes, but you were born at a very young age. So here's the thing: if anybody doesn't know, Ian, you, another one of your nicknames is the Holy Hand Grenade. That's how I knew you for years. And of course, you have been on the Situation Report and just.
I've been on there a few times. That was my show.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then, and then you kind of moved into some local ministry, which you've been doing for a couple years now. Amazing story. We've had you on a little over a year ago talking about that. Amazing things there. So, you kind of moved from talking about a lot of conspiracy type stuff to doing just some real don't take this the wrong way, but you know what I mean when I say that, like missionary work. Not that the other work's not missionary work. We're ministering the gospel and we're exposing the darkness. We're talking about all this stuff. But what do you think about that transition? You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at that and I'm talking to you over the last couple of years. And to me, I'm thinking, man, this is kind of weird. This is, I think it's cool, but I'm like, at first I'm like, man, this doesn't seem like Ian. Not that you know what I mean? I do
know what you're saying. Yeah, because so I got my start listening to you guys. The first team, Jared and Tom, back in the day. I don't even remember what year it was that you started Through the Black, but that inspired me. Yeah, it inspired me to do an online show as well. Now, I didn't start it like right when you guys did. I think I was like a year or so after, maybe 2 years after. But I had been on several other shows, and things like that. But it kind of got my foot out. I was always a conspiracy guy because, you know what? We're right. We're right about a lot of stuff, Sometimes we say
most things.
Yeah. We go about it a little bit in the wrong spirit sometimes as a group. But we're right. And that's the thing. You can't be arrogant about it. We've been given wisdom and revelation from heaven. So it's not that we did it, it's just God has chosen to allow our veil to be removed and we can see some things that most people, I guess, aren't hungry to see or whatever. But the thing that changed me though was I got kind of fed up because I felt like, and I know I'm not trying to boast here, but I know a lot of stuff about conspiracy stuff. I can draw the Q map. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't even know that was a thing, but I could do that. You know what I mean? Before that was a thing. I remember the second day I heard of Q, I was calling out all the stuff as it is today, like a PSYOP. I could tell you who was doing it, all that stuff. It didn't do anything for my life at all. It just made me popular maybe, but it was not real. You know what I'm saying? Like, what good is the knowledge that you have if what good is I'm a handyman and a contractor. What good is having a work truck full of tools and all these skills if I don't go to work? Right? So it kind of was bothering me because I was thinking like, you're always waiting for like, oh, I'm going to make a video about this or I'm going to make it something about that. But what am I actually doing about it? I mean, I know that is something. I just felt like I was required to do more because the thing is, I feel like the Lord allows us to get this knowledge just like a special operator in the military, right? You learn a special operation skill set. You're put on a team. You're meant for this caliber, this, elevated status. Why do we keep hanging out down here? I mean, there's not a lot of people with the knowledge that could be effective in these areas like some of us, and yet we're not doing it. We're trying to tell other people, learn as much as I do or learn as much as me and then go do it, but you're not doing it, And so I was always looking for opportunities to I kept praying. I would pray to God a lot because I feel very called to victims of SRA and that whole thing. I did all of Russ Disdar's teachings and I was doing that stuff like for years. I pretty much listened to that whole website, but I was just like, God, why are you allowing me to do this stuff? And I'm not actually, there must be something in my city, right? Because you're giving me all this training and you're doing all these things and we're praying for things to be exposed. I want to expose it here. I feel like this is why I'm being trained. Something's going to happen here and I need to prepare for that. Well, then I started changing the way I pray because you know how it is. When you pray a certain way and you don't see the results, you think maybe I'm praying wrong, or maybe I'm asking for the wrong thing, or maybe I'm missing something. So I started praying, help me to position myself where you want me to be for this, and that changed a little bit because then he started bringing people in my path. And the thing that is a hindrance for a lot of people is doctrine or theology. And they say, first thing you do and you introduce yourself and you find out you're both Christians, you start talking and you're like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And it becomes like, if you don't agree and it's not pretty level, then you're like, oh man, I can't do it, and that's stupid. It's just dumb. It doesn't make any sense. You don't do that in war. You don't ask the guy that's shooting the enemy right next to you in the trench if he's a Mormon. You don't care because he's shooting the bad guy, and it's not the time, right, or the place. So that's kind of what happened. And I was just thinking like, okay, Lord. And then he started to just line things up for me. And I started to say yes. And I started to step into things. And then, God would just use my wisdom that he had put on me in situations. He says to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. There's a lot to that. And it's not necessarily harmless because, like you said, the definition of hooligan, right, is violent, right? Well, there's also the scripture that says that the kingdom of heaven suffers violence, but the violent take it by force. That is real. And I'm one of the people that will tell you that deliverance is the answer for a lot of things. And we need more people willing to step into that realm and do something because you're getting trained, you're being equipped, and that is where, if there's ever, think about this, if there's ever a fight, doesn't there have to be a winner and a loser?
Mm-hmm.
How many times do Christians go to battle and there's never a winner or a loser? It's just a brawl, right? And then they end up like taking a break because they're winded, and then they just come back and do it. And it's like there's never this encounter where there is a clear winner and a clear loser. Well, we have the promise, right? We have victory. We have these things, and it comes with our identity. It comes with this inheritance as sons of the King, right? So no weapon formed against us shall prosper. That doesn't mean it won't form. It'll form, but it's not going to prosper. And we're supposed to stand all the time, even when we feel like we can't. That's why you need people around you to help you stand, right? You're not meant to do it alone. There's a lot of lone wolves out there on the internet. And I didn't want to be that. I wanted a community. And the Lord answered that prayer. When I prayed for community, I prayed it and I wanted it physically, right? But for the first 2 or 3 years, I got community, but it was all over. And it was through the internet. And some of those people, like you, Tom, I mean, you live close to me, but at the time it was in the internet. And then, there's several other people who I dearly love that I prayed with, that we discipled each other. We recalled each other for hours every week. We became tight, and that was something that I needed. Even though we weren't in the same place, I could keep going knowing that I had people praying with me that I could go to, and then the Lord started, as I started to step out, he started to bring guys to me that, the first time I met Joel Burton, the founder of Simple Street Ministry that I'm a part of, I met him at a sex trafficking awareness rally. And I went there because I'm passionate about that issue. I didn't know anybody else there. But when I met Joel there, we clicked. And it was like, God was like, you went where I wanted you to go, and I brought you, alongside somebody else. And now you have a teammate, right? And then he introduced me to several other people. But that's where I started forming the unit, is when I started to go to these events and be present there, because I know my identity and I was prepared to do something, And so, I mean, it eventually did take over. And now I don't It's not that I don't love doing online and stuff. I don't have any more time because I'm always doing things. I say yes to everything. Like, I probably shouldn't say yes to everything because it gets a little overwhelming, and I got a lot of kids, but I say yes to a lot of things because I'm like, God has put this in front of me. He's given me the means to do it, the network to get it done, whether I'm like leading it or it's just helping people to get this thing together. I want to do something, and when you start to do that, you get addicted to it. And when you're addicted to something, that's good for you. Why would you mess it up? You know what I mean?
Ian, I really like over in Katie kind of put up she put up the date where we started. It was back in 2017, March in 2017. So we're coming up on 6 years here pretty soon of Through the Black. But I've watched you grow a lot over the years, and I really took notice when you kind of made this transition into this street ministry that you've been involved in. And you have been very passionate for years about the conspiracy stuff, and I'm just like, I'm like, man, I can't keep up with this guy. You just had so much information, and your research and your studying. I was definitely couldn't, hang at your level. Because
I remember a lot of our phone calls. It would be me asking you if you wanted to know something, and you'd say yeah, and then I would talk, and then you would say, "Whoa, yeah,
well, yeah, we had a lot of, it's true, and well, okay. And I use the same analogy. It's kind of like drinking from a fire hose instead of a water fountain, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, dude, I can't. Can you just send me the print version of this?
Yeah, you would be like, just send it to me. I don't have it printed out. I don't write a blog.
But
you wouldn't read it anyway.
You went from being very passionate about that to being very passionate about the street ministry that you're doing, and you're sharing this with me and what God's doing, and you're going down to the streets and you're passing out food, and just amazing things are happening. Ministries taking place. You're going to the front lines, right into the trenches of a dangerous areas of your city. Was there anything that you learned from all of your work exposing conspiracies and things like that you were able to take with you? I know you did Russ's training and all that you were able to use in the street ministry.
Absolutely. Everything. I mean, you don't witness using conspiracy theories necessarily, but you use them to, you could use, when you have an immense resource of knowledge or a wealth of knowledge, when someone says something, you can usually find a way to get them where you want to go by talking about certain things. Right. So it just helps because you're like, you can hear them say, like, if you're talking to somebody in conversation, trying to engage them, and they say something that triggers, hey, the way they said that makes me think that maybe they know something about this. And then you just throw that out. And if they do, that might be the thing that engages them in this conversation with a stranger on the street, and then you can lead yourself wherever. That's just one thing. The other things are, you look around at all the depravity and stuff that's going on. Well, there's a spiritual reason. It's not just a thing that happens. It's a spiritual reason. And so you can identify those really quickly. Okay. When you see them, you're like, that is the spirit of this, or, there's just things that happen, and certain areas struggle with this. That must mean that there's a high place somewhere around, you know what I mean? There's just things that happen in your mind to help you strategize and win. I mean, that's the other thing is I don't feel like there's a whole lot of stuff that I am worried about coming up against that I am not prepared for, that because I'm like, I just feel that I would probably be prepared for it because nothing's crazy to me anymore. You know what I mean? And there's been some insane stories that we've heard on the streets or encounters with people that whatever, like a lot of demonic manifestation, a lot of it, because we're right in their nest.
So you are probably
Mhm.
equipped in a way that maybe some of the other people involved in the ministry are not.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yep. And let me tell you, this is so interesting that you bring that up, because I was getting ready. I'm going to talk about this on Saturday. We're doing it's not an outreach, but it's more like we have a couple partners that one of them's a biker gang. They're a Christian biker gang called the Remnant Sons. They help us a lot, and they're having like a celebration with their MC, and we're going and we're speaking there. It's like a Bible study type thing, but we're all going to speak. The guys from Simple Street, and I was actually going to tell a story about when we first got together. Simple Street had been around since 2018. It started with just two guys, and then Butch is another member of the group, and he came out of prison after a 9-year sentence, and he joined, and then I joined, and then there was another guy that joined at the same time in 2020 or 2019, last part of 2019, and we became a unit, like a fist, right? There was 5 of us. We were always together. We actually worked together for a long time. And it was just, we ministered together, we worked together, we did life together, we loved each other, and we cared about each other, and it made us a unit, right? Well, then Joel made a group chat with all of us in it, and he called the group chat the Breach Team, and I think it was just something that he said, but there's so much prophetic meaning that I've found in that name that he called us from the start, the Breach Team. And I after he passed away on July 31st. He was hit by a car, and but we've been doing a lot of reflecting and a lot of looking back and things like that. And one of the things that I remembered was that he named us the Breach Team, and I did some looking up, and an actual Breach Team. There's 4 members of the Breach Team, which there's 4 of us now because Joel's dead, and they all have there's 4 types of breaches. Like we're talking like SWAT team or, military breach team. The door guys, the door kickers, right? There's 4 different types of breaches. There's like, I don't know if I can name them all. There's mechanical, there's technical, there's, there's all these different ones, and they're all specialized for their specific type of breach, but they all make up one unit. And so that way, whenever they come up against the door, there's no possible way that door is not coming down, right? And they all, when they get to the scene, they assess it, or they do their research beforehand, right? But when they get there, the person that's leading the team at the time is the guy who will be breaching with his specific, with his specific skill set. And I think that is exactly what we do. Because we all are called, we're all equipped with different things, different skill sets, different passions. We're all passionate about the gospel. We're passionate about saving people in the rescue mission that we're on. But we all have a unique way that looks when we do it, right? And so as a team, whenever we come up against these different things, like we have guys that are super good at this, and we have guys that are super good at that. We have really personable guys that will literally just walk right in like the front door of a trap house and start talking and having a conversation. Whereas most people would be like, dude, you can't just go in there, but he's got like this skill set where you can't even be mad at him. So he just does it, but it works. I wouldn't do it. That ain't me, but that's him for sure. And he's never been killed or shot that I know of. So it's working, you know what I mean? But I just think about that, and I think, how prophetic was it that he named us that? And now we're coming into this idea. We're understanding how and maybe what he was thinking when he did that. But I think it's important because one thing that keeps us going, that keeps us successful, is that we have accountability. There's things in your life that you want to do, but you never actually do it consistently because there's no accountability. And if you did, like, for example, Tom, when you're preparing for shows, you feel this urgency, like, if I don't do this, I'm going to let people down, right? Whereas if you didn't have to prepare, you might just, I'm running behind. I'm not going to do the show tonight. but you made a commitment, right? And there's people counting on you to do this. So it makes you do it, and you need people in your life like that, or you're not going to do anything. And so we found that, and we don't want to let it go. We actually want to try to teach people how to have that, because that is true discipleship. It's not pray this prayer with me and then start going to a church and reading your Bible and you'll get it, because you won't get it. There's a lot of problems right now because people don't get it. You need somebody to grab your hand and be like, listen, man, I see this XYZ in you. Like, I'm going to call it out of you, just like Jesus did, right? He didn't invite the disciples. He called them. He tapped them like, hey, Peter, you're a fisherman, but I'm going to make you a fisher of men. You need to come with me. Like, there's a calling on your life. Come on, and we're going to pull it out of you. And he never let them just be dumb. He always spoke to that identity that he wanted to see, that he knew was there, and pulled it out of them instead of criticizing them and doing their thing. Because that's the thing. That's the thing, that the biggest thing that I've learned on the street is that love has zero judgment with it. It can't. Right. So we go to the streets and we come across some very mean people and, crazy stuff like that. But we're not there to judge them. We're not there to shame them. We're not there to do anything. We don't even care if they receive it lovingly back to us. It's not reciprocated well, whatever. It doesn't matter, because they know that they're in trouble. They do, regardless of how they act. And we want them to know that we truly care, so that they do know, hey, I need a way out. Where's that one guy? Where's the one bunch of people that were on the street that were telling me, and that's why we're so consistent. When we started going downtown, they went every single Friday night. So we kept that going until this year, when we had a lot of tragedy and stuff. We got a little messed up on our schedule, but we try to go out at least twice a month. But it was every Friday night. We made a commitment. We were at the same place, because these people, everybody in their life has bailed, or lied to them. And they need something consistent. And if we can't give that to them, then we might as well not even go down there, because you show up one time and you serve them a meal and then you roll out and you never think about them again until the next holiday, when you try to plan something to make you feel better. We didn't want that. We were like, hey, we might not have a whole lot to give you, but we're going to cook hot dogs for you, and we're going to talk to you. And we remember their names. We remember some of the stories, and we connect with them because they need that, That's what we do. And once I started doing that, I went down there with this normal Christian mindset of God needs me to help these people. Well, what God was actually doing was he needed me to go there to confront some things in my own heart. And he broke my heart. He still does every time. There's something.
Ian, I want to continue on with the direction that we're going. But I want to, before we continue on, I want to talk about, you said something about a calling on your life. And I want to throw that out to the listeners tonight. Do you know what the calling on your life is? For me personally, I can't get away from it. I didn't ask for it. People ask me, why do you do the work that you do? Have you come out of that? Is that your background? No, I've not been abused, okay, or anything like that. I don't have any involvement in the occult or anything like that. God just called me to this. I can't explain it, but I can't get away from it. Like, what does it mean to have a calling on your life? And I mean, I guess speak to the listeners tonight. And I'm wondering, do you know? I want to see in the comments. Do you know what your calling is?
Well, that's a really good question, because I mean, I don't even know necessarily that I could write down specifically what I feel called to, because I believe in seasons of life, in growth, and I believe that God is preparing you for something. Like, you need these tours of duty to prepare you for this training that will prepare you for this tour of duty, that will prepare you for this POW, time frame, that will, what I mean? So you don't really know, but I do know that we have a great commission, and it's to go, therefore, right?
Yeah.
And make, these are actions, right? Standing is an action. All these things are actions. And you know what the driver is? It's compassion, right? And deliverance is a compassion. It's a ministry of compassion. Like, the thing is, people often get in that mindset because they believe a lot of lies and they think, God must not want to do this for me. And that's a lie. He wants to do it for you.
Yeah.
He's already died and paid the price for it. The problem is you have to come in alignment. There is a certain place that you have to be to get the gift card, so to speak, and for some reason you can't turn your MapQuest on and get there. So it's not anybody's fault but your own. And sometimes you need tough love and you need people around you to make you go there. And that's what I meant by, pulling out the destiny of people, because that's what Christ did. That's what I see. And I think, when I say prophetic, for people that I know there's a weird view of prophetic stuff, right? They think it's all about like end times and putting dates on things and stuff like that. That's not it at all. That is part of it, right? But prophesying things that don't exist into existence is how we live in faith, right? We don't see it, but we speak it into existence because it's God's will. He tells us to pray. He said, "Our Father, which is in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven," right? That means it's up to us to do something to get the kingdom here, because it's his will that it comes here. We're supposed to come in alignment with that and grab hold of it and bring it here, right? And so when you can look at somebody in the eye and you see their skills, I mean, this is what you see: a really personable guy who has very low self-esteem, who's addicted to drugs, who's lost everything in his life because of his addiction. He's lost his children. He's lost his family's disowned him because he's probably stole from him and just burned a whole lot of bridges. His girlfriend is either dead or she's in addiction, or, maybe she's in prostitution and addiction. And there's like literally no one that they know has a better life than them. These are the people that you're like, I can already tell you're very personable. And you're like, we ran into this one guy. He was like hustling us, man, trying to get us to buy stuff. You know what I mean? He's just really, he didn't seem like, if I'd have met him somewhere else, I would have thought different, but I mean, those are the kind of things that you notice and you're like, you know what? You think in your mind, how does the Lord look at this person? And he's given you giftings without repentance, right? So that means he's given you a gift from before you were born that you will have, regardless of if you choose to use it for him or not, right? And so you can see these things in people's lives and you can prophesy them forward, right? You say, hey, listen, there's a calling on your life, and here's what it is. I believe that this is something that God has gifted you with, and it's not for what you're using it for. It's for the, and I believe if you started using it for this, that the rest of your life would fall into line. And, then you just, that's the kind of thing. And like people respond to this more than you think. And maybe it's not so prevalent in like middle class or the people that we surround ourselves with, because there is a very big cultural divide. And when you speak to these people like that, they have never had anyone in their life speak to them that way.
So
women have no men in their life. They've never had a father. Usually the kids grow up without a father or an absentee father that beats them, or he's in prison. And you know what I'm saying? When you have a man, especially, speaking over your life and not wavering, it does something to you. It is powerful.
I've met a lot of people that I feel like I've seen more people that have missed their calling, you know what I'm saying, than have fulfilled it. And maybe I'm just kind of, because I focus on that, you know what I mean? Like if somebody fulfills their calling, then you don't really think about it. They're just doing it, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't know if it was their calling or not. But I've met so many people and I'm just like, oh, dude, we've said this, like, so-and-so's got a calling on their life and the devil's just, just rocking their world. And, it's a sad thing. And you kind of gave that little description of somebody, maybe that you met out there, it's like, okay, this guy's got the gift, but there's the addiction and there's all this stuff.
Mhm.
So, what I guess I want to hear more about Simple Street and what's happening in Dayton. I mean, God has done some amazing things. Now, when you came on a year ago, you were just testifying to what was going on. There was a dream center happening down there. I think it was almost done. So, what is the fruit of this dream center and the ministry?
Oh, dude, it is so cool. So the Dream Center went live June 11th, and it was 2 years after they wanted to, but COVID kind of pushed the whole construction back. But what they did was our church, the church that I'm a part of, our pastor had a vision from God and been given a dream for this. He didn't know it was going to be called Dream Center, but it was an outreach center in this specific neighborhood downtown 32 years ago. And I didn't know this until recently, but he and his wife had prayer walk that neighborhood every Saturday for 32 years. And then the dream finally came through, and the cool thing was they bought this old stone church. It's got really cool stained glass. It was, heavily vandalized and like run down, but all the stained glass, and it's got a picture of Jesus' arms open wide, and it never got touched. And so that's still there. But what they did was they renovated the inside and they put $4 million into it. And going into the project, they said, we don't want this to be a burden on our church. So we're going to fund this mission because it's God that's put it on us. He's going to fund it with cash. So it took 4 years, but they paid it completely off cash. And the cool thing was the day they paid off the Dream Center, they also paid off the church. So everything is debt free now, completely, right? Which that's kind of unheard of for a church, but it allows them to now pour into other ministries, because one of their visions was, we don't want to start something that somebody's already had a calling on their life and they're already trying to do it. We want to come alongside them and support them where no one has, right? And give them this place. So they made this community center, and we serve food out of it. We serve, we have a clothing store in there that's all free. We do laundry. There's a huge laundromat in there. There's showers in there. So they can come take showers. It's all free. Everything is free. We do services in there on Sunday mornings, but we also feed 3 times a week and do a little Bible study type of thing there too. It's going to continue to get more. But what's cool is during the week, you can also just come in if you wanted to and just, get counseling, get whatever. But we partnered with the city and the county people, so where we have offices for county officials and things, to where if you need to get paperwork of any kind that normally they would say go to the federal building or go to here and get your social security card and then go here, we can do it all from there. So that's the one-stop shop, which is not really a thing, anymore. So when you come in there, whatever your need is, they have several different ministries housed there. There's a recovery place that's there. There's all kinds of things to where whatever your situation is, there's a way out, and it's right there in front of you. And so we have a cool thing. And I'm actually getting to know these people. And I had a conversation with them last night for about an hour and a half with the lady that founded it. But it's called Dear Dinah, and it is a sex trafficking awareness place that also rescues and stuff. And they're a Christian organization, but they work closely in Dayton with the Dayton Trafficking Task Force, which I didn't even know we had one, but apparently we do. We got a pretty good sized one. And they're also officed in the Dream Center. And so I asked her last night, I said, how many girls since June? And she said, well, we've probably seen 60 or 70 girls, but not all of them are ready or able to get out, at the time. But we have gotten 4 women and their children safely into safe houses and out and into, some type of temporary housing while they're recovering, and got them support and things like that. And then The other girls, they continue to keep a relationship with and try to get to them. And, it's just how the battle is with that. But that's just one of those. You guys hear that noise?
Yeah, I don't know where that's coming from.
Yeah, I don't either. I didn't want it to interrupt, but that's the thing that is so cool is like, those are the unspoken things that are happening at the Dream Center. Like, I know about it because I had the privilege of being on the startup team. It was very cool because when we first talked about opening, it was 4 years ago, and I really wanted to be a part of it. And I began to pray, Lord, let me be a part of this, And anyways, long story short, so right before it opened in May, I get a phone call from the lady who was going to be the director at the time, who I'd had a relationship with. And she said, I'm going to ask you this question and I need you to be honest with me. I said, okay. And she said, do you want to be the media director at the Dream Center? And I was like, absolutely. And she said, okay. And then I was like, what, And so then she just immediately, she's like, here's what you need to do. We're opening this time. We need this, and this done. We need the videos done. We need promo. We need all this stuff. And she's like, by the way, I am no longer going to be the director. I'm promoted to another thing and I'm moving to a different state to run a prison ministry. And I was like, whoa, hold up. Like, what? You gave me a job and then you quit? And, but the new guy, he was one of my close friends too. So we hit it off and it was like a God thing. And I was stoked about it. And then about 6 weeks in, it was all going great. And I wake up one morning and I just feel in my heart that I'm not supposed to be doing it. It was like a light switch, man. All of a sudden, it was like, I am not supposed to be doing this, And it was really bad because I thought it was like being attacked. I thought it was like stuff, coming up in life and trying to make it hard for me, And I asked my dad, I called him and I was like, man, here's what's going on. And he said, sounds like God's, he said, God's, you remember, he's a good father. And he's like, sometimes when your kids think they want something and that that's not what you have for them, you let them have it just so they can figure it out for themselves. And he's like, maybe, he knew how bad you wanted it. So he gave it to you for a little bit, just to, so you would realize that that's not really what you want. And at that point it kind of clicked and I was like, yeah, I don't really want this, man. I want to be involved. I don't want to be the behind the scenes, I don't want to have this responsibility because it will take away from me being actively, being the hands. And so I was like feeling really bad. I was like, I'm going to have to call and tell him I quit. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I do not want to do that because I made a commitment. Anyways, my phone rings and it's Wes, the director. And he says, man, I don't want to have this conversation with you, dude. He's like, it's killing me all day. He's like, but the board kind of decided that we're going to hire somebody full-time that's, and it's not you. And I was like, oh, thank God. You know what I mean? And he was very sad about it. But I was like, bro, you don't even understand what God just told me. I was like, he goes before us and behind us. He set you up, man, or he set me up. And then he said, it was like a thing. So I told him, I was like, man, God just told me that I'm not supposed to be doing this and I need to step down. And so I was like, I'm not even sad. And he's like, and then he was just like, and I felt like in my spirit, I was like, I really feel called to discipleship. I like what's going on here, what I'm doing. So then Wes is like, well, how do you feel about doing discipleship at the Dream Center for us? And I was like, could it get any more cool, right? So I've been involved with the discipleship program there. And I get to interact with a lot of guys coming off the streets for recovery. And I'm also part of the security team on the Sunday mornings and for different events that are there because it is in a rough area of town. And there's not a lot of, we have women and kids there and there's not a lot of, let's just say there needs to be a lot of men there sometimes because of just people walking around. Anybody and everybody can have access to certain things. And a lot of people feel unsafe if there's not bodies there. So it's a little different for sure as far as church goes, but it's cool. And it's just an amazing outreach tool because there's a lot of things that now that we're on the streets and we're doing things and we can't help these people with everything, but now there's a place and we're like, you need to go to the Dream Center. Here's this person's number. You call them, they'll come get you. You know what I mean? Like these kind of things. Or if you're hungry, go get something to eat and get yourself a new coat, get some new shoes, get all this stuff. That kind of thing. Get some counseling. And what's cool too is that the church is attached to it. So like being there for every week, I'm seeing people that came in for services and then all of a sudden started to come in and stay 10 minutes in the service and leave. Then they stay 20 minutes and leave. Then the next week it's 30 minutes. Then they raise their hand a little bit, then it's like, it's this, it's breaking down, and the thing is, we have the authority, right? When we praise the Lord, it breaks things off. So we're sitting there in the middle of the worst part of town, praising God and being his hands and feet and loving these people like they've never been loved before. And,
this is real spiritual warfare.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So we are definitely prepared for other things.
Anybody that's just tuning in, we are talking with the born again hooligan, Ian Chadrick, just testifying about what God is doing down in Dayton, Ohio. Just amazing testimony in a dark area. You guys went in and I really, I love hearing this because I think somebody could hear you talking about this and they can model this anywhere. We're not in competition with anybody. We want this to be modeled anywhere. We show up at conferences and we meet people, and Ian, you and I are far away. If we live closer together, who knows what kind of trouble we would get into together, right? But God has you there. He has me there. We got friends in California. We got friends in Indiana and East Coast, West Coast, Canada, all over. God knows what he's doing, and he's using us there. We go to a conference and we're like, oh man, I wish it could be like this all the time, because we're among these like-minded people and it feels comfortable for us. Then we got to go back to being the only person. Sometimes, it's about being the only Christian, or, it could be about the only person that knows about all the craziness going on in the world. But we have to basically join in the fight where we're at, and I've been thinking about this, in regards to they're having a big shindig up in Boston. It's going to be a celebration of Satan. Okay, good for you guys. That's so far away. Not saying I won't go, but probably I won't go. I live in Ohio. What can I do in Ohio? You know what I'm saying?
Here's the thing. You know what's so funny? Let me say something so funny about that, because if look at, we got a good example because you were actually there, Tom, when we had the event and we did a tent revival in Troy, Ohio, which is it's a nicer area, not the ghetto where we normally go, but we got invited to come out there and do something. So, but that was the first event where we actually had pagan community members and occult groups and supposedly the Church of Satan, all these stuff coming after us and trying to prevent us from doing this event. And the police called us and everything. And they were like, you need to be aware of this. This is a real thing. And if I called Tom, like, dude, you got to come down here and check this out, man. I don't know what's going to happen. But I thought it was fun, right? And I'm thinking conspiracy and all that stuff. But I also did things in real life. Like we went there with a group of people and we prayed over that whole place. And we did it multiple nights. We did communion. We did as much as we could. We got together with the members that were trying to run the thing, like organized it. And we specifically prayed over each other and we broke off things that could be problems. We did what we were supposed to do. And it ended up not being as bad as what they said it was going to be, which is exactly what we prayed for, right? We also prayed for opportunity. And I think Tom had an opportunity. So for 3 hours, you spoke to a guy.
That was amazing.
And
it
was like, but that's the thing. It's like when we see these things, there's a Boston Tea Party Satan Club thing going on up there. Let's all freak out. It's give me 5 men. We're going to go over to wherever this park is, and we're going to break everything apart in the spirit realm. And it's going to feel super uncomfortable for them when they're here. They're not going to be able to enjoy themselves. You know, you have the authority to do all that, you know, just go do it and mean it. And so I think that's what it's going to take. I think we're almost to the place where we're going to look really mean because of the things that we're doing, because we're not going to tolerate this crap anymore, especially when it's your city. You know, that's the one thing that keeps me going is like God reignited. So for my whole life, I've always hated this city. I don't know what it was. And now I know it was the enemy, but I had this thing I was just like, this place sucks. I don't want to be here. As soon as I can get out, I'm out. I had a child when I was 19 and I couldn't leave. Right. So it was like, because the mom wanted to be by her mom and the families and all this stuff. So I could never leave. And then when I got to a place where I was going to leave again, I couldn't leave. And then God met me in a church service. He told me this literally, like I don't even remember what the pastor was preaching about, but I remember the story he was telling was about when Jesus healed the blind man when he rubbed mud in his eye and spit in it, right? And when he rubs the mud out the first time and he says, you know, what do you see? The guy says, I see men as trees walking. Well, I'm sitting in the pew and I'm thinking, well, he must not have been born blind because he would have had no frame of reference for trees or men or whatever. Literally, I'm processing this and I felt the Lord say to me very clear, you have become blind and I'm going to restore your vision. I'm going to give you my vision and my heart for this city. And I was like, what? And then at that point, I don't know what to tell you. It just changed. And now I'm like super passionate. I don't want to leave. I want to be here. You know, I want to finish what I've started here. You know, I don't think I've started it, but I've started something for me and I want to see it through. There's a lot to do, you know, but the season that we're coming into, you need to take ownership of your stuff and your people and quit giving it to the devil. Mm-hmm. We need to take it back.
Ian, I'm just thinking, you know, we've challenged the listeners, like, what's your calling? And now we're hearing like 32 years of prayer, $4 million. That's going to overwhelm people. And we know that we don't need a dime to do this stuff.
Well, we don't have a dime. So we do everything with nothing. We were given things. So.
And that's what I was going to have you speak to, because I know, especially with Simple Street, you guys started with nothing. And even as you started getting donations, you were like, I think the guys in the street were like, we don't even need your hot dogs, man. Just come and talk to us. So can you speak to the people that think, I need donations, I need a 501c3, I need a board, like we still.
So when it first started, they were like, so what happened was Joel was at a funeral and he was preaching a funeral for this girl that had OD'd. And he felt like the Lord told him, you didn't go to her, and she didn't come to your church, and you didn't go to her neighborhood. And you need to go get these people. And so then he was like, well, I don't even know what to do. So him and Zeb, they got a grill. They put it in the back of their pickup truck. They got some food, and they went downtown, and they just pop-up chairs and sat there and grilled food and gave it away and just asked people if they wanted prayer for anything and just were there, right? And that's how they started it. And then it's funny, it's 4 years later, we still do the same thing. And the thing is, whenever we get more money, we just put it into more stuff. So we're buying sleeping bags now, or we're buying coats, and we're giving those away, you know, and it's still have as many hot dogs as you want. Like we've even had people come down and serve with us and be like, this person has come through 3 times and they're trying to keep getting stuff. Do I just give it to them? I'm like, absolutely, you give it to them. Like, we're giving this away. We don't care how many they take. We don't care if they say they don't, you know, if they look like they don't need it. Who cares, you know? But it's a mindset change that you can do these things. And like some of the most powerful stuff has happened when we run out of food. So we don't even have the food because it's already been taken. So people come up for the food and you're like, oh, we don't have anything, you know, left. We can give you, would you like prayer for anything? And then bam, they get prayer and they get, you know, freed from an addiction or something like that. I mean, we've seen some crazy stuff happen and it's just been so powerful. But the thing is, like when we started to get things, like we got we had a trailer and we filled it with supplies, and we were getting ready to give it out. And it was a Wednesday. We were giving it out on Friday. It was our first trailer. It got stolen with everything in it. And so we were like, oh, crap, you know. So we put up a Facebook post saying, all of our stuff just got stolen in our trailer. If you see the trailer, cool, let us know or call the police or whatever. But we need another trailer by Friday because we committed to do this, right? We got another trailer. It was a little bigger, and it was full of stuff. And we went and did it, right? And then, you know, we got another trailer after that. And then in 2020, we were like praying as a team, trying to figure out what we were going to do. And we felt like the Lord was saying, do some tent revivals. Like they won't, like this was the COVID thing. They were like, we can't be in the church and all that stupid stuff. So we were like, hey, there's going to be churches that are not going to do their planned revivals like they always do, right? So I wonder if they'll give us their tents. And so we felt like the Lord just kept saying, you have not because you asked not. And we were like, we have not because we asked not. Let's just ask. So we started making videos and being like, hey, we need tents. We're going to do tent revivals. We had a person call us and they were like, we have 2 60 by 40s, big canvas, nice tents. You want them? Come get them. We're like, yeah. Then we were like, we need a bigger trailer. So we got a bigger trailer. We sold the 2, got a bigger one, got the tents in the trailer. Then we were like, well, we have the tents. We need chairs. Threw it out there. We set up our events, though, because we're like, God's going to bring us chairs, you know? So we did not plan our events till we had everything. We just planned it. We're like, at least they could stand under the tent. And then we had somebody give us 300 chairs. And so we were like, cool. And then people wanted to get baptized, and we were like, we should build a baptism. So we built a baptism on another trailer. So we just take them all with us wherever we're at, because we believe, like, we've seen some awesome deliverance happen in the tank, like in the middle of winter, because we don't care, right? God doesn't care. You know, these people don't care, which is the craziest thing. The first time I ever saw people get baptized when it was 30 degrees outside, I didn't think anybody was going to do it. For one, I was like, there's no way they're going to do this. Like, I don't care how saved they are, you know? And dude, it was a little kid that did it first. And this was the most awesome miracle. So we're standing outside at this park where we set up our stuff. And his mom and dad dropped him off. And then they were like doing drugs in this van right next to the park, it was insane. Wow. The kid wanted to get baptized at the end. And he kept telling his mom, I want to get baptized. And she was just kind of like, they wanted to leave, you know. Well, anyways, he just comes over and he says, I'm getting baptized. And so we're like, are you sure, buddy? He's like, yeah. Well, then Joel, he's like, he starts praying over the kid. And he's like, you know what? The Holy Spirit is, you know, he is fire. So when you come out of this tank, you're going to be on fire. You're not going to be cold. So don't worry about that. Well, his mom came over to get him because he wasn't allowed to be getting baptized, right? The kid gets dunked, comes up. He is hot. I'm not even kidding you. There was steam coming off of him. He was hot. And his mom started crying. And then the other kids started getting baptized. We had 17 kids get baptized that day at the park in 38-degree weather. And it was so then at that point, now every time it's cold, we're like, you're going to come out on fire. You know what I'm saying? This is how your faith works. We saw it. We didn't expect it, but it happened. And now we know it can happen. So now we say it happens every time. When you come out of this water, you're going to be free from addiction. You know what I mean? You're going to be filled with the Holy Spirit. You're going to have this, you know what I mean? We just tell them and they know. Like there was this other guy. This was really powerful for me. So we were at this recovery event and we set up a tent and we're in the middle of like the second day. And there's this guy walking down the street and he's got a wife beater on. He's completely covered in tattoos, his face, everything. And he's got his hands behind his back. He's got this weird, like, he looks like he's a demon walking down the street. It was very disturbing. And he had a knife. And he was just walking by the tent. And one of our guys is like, I think that guy's got a knife behind his back. We need to pay attention to him because we don't want to get him, you know, with that knife. And so one of the guys goes over and talks to him right away. He gives him the knife. And then some people under the tent from the streets knew him. So they brought him over to their section. And he was just kind of sitting there. And he had this weird, like, demonic smirk on his face. And he had a big hump on his back. Like, He was young, probably in his mid-20s, but he had this hunchback where his head was down like this, and he's always looking up. You know what I mean? It was very prominent. And so he's over there praying, and we get to the end. We're doing the altars, and he wants to leave, and these guys are like, stay. And so I go up to the front where we're going to do if you want to come forward for prayer, there's some guys up here that'll pray with you. I'm on that side where he's at, and his friends push him up there. And so I just look at him, and he's looking at me, and he's got like this weird look on his face. And I was like, you want to be free today? I was like, you want to be free? And he's like, he starts crying a little bit. And this is not normal for, tattooed, scary looking, creepy guys. But he starts crying a little bit, and he's like, yeah, I want to be free. Right. And I was like, all right, you're going to have to repeat after me some things. I'm going to say some stuff, and you repeat it, and I'm going to wait for you because you need to say them. Okay. We're going to break some stuff off of you. So we start doing this, and he's starting to, he's saying it, but he's crying so hard he can't say it. And he starts trying to turn around and walk away. And these guys are kind of holding him there, and we're doing it. And then he's like, man, I feel so alone. And then I was like, turn around. And he turns around, and like literally there's probably 20 guys standing behind him saying his name. They're like, come on, Mikey. Come on, buddy. All this stuff. And it was like a powerful moment, man. And anyways, we pray all this stuff, and I tell him, he hugs me, and he hugged me for a little longer than I, expected. And I told him, I was like, you're not done, dude. I was like, you got to get baptized. I was like, if you want all this off you for real, you're getting baptized. I was like, don't worry about the cold. You're not even going to care about it. It's not going to matter at all, because all that stuff that's coming off of you, right? And I was telling him, he's like, man, I hate water. I was like, you have to. I was like, urgent, and everybody's like, come on, you can do it, Mikey. They all start pumping him up. Anyways, he goes up there, and we don't even let him think about it. We put him up there. He's like, let me take my shoes off. So he's taking his shoes off. These guys are like pushing him, like, get in the water, It was like, it was crazy, because at this point, everybody in the whole tent is watching this. And he finally gets in the water. He gets dunked, and he comes up, like Joel literally prophesies over this dude. He's like, he does the deliverance thing. Like, when you come out of this water, Satan, you have no hold over this guy. Everything's being broke off. We bind you, all that. He comes out of the water, and he is like smiling so big. It was like creepy, right? And he looks at us, and he's like, he looks right at me in my face, and he's like, you were telling me the truth. He's like, you were telling me the truth. You were telling me the truth. And then he's like jumping up and down, and he gets out of the water, and I go to put a towel on him, and he tries to hug me, and his hump is gone. And I'm not even kidding you. It freaked me out, because I was like, what? I'm like hugging him. He doesn't have the hump anymore. Okay. And I'm like, and he kept just saying, you told me the truth. I love you. You told me the truth and all that stuff. And then these guys took him because it was super cold. And they're like, we need to go. Let's go to the house right across the street and get you some clothes, man, and all that stuff. And this whole time I'm thinking he lives over there. And I go up to the guy that runs the recovery stuff that has that house. I'm like, did you see that? He's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, he's Mikey, man. And I was like, dude, his hump's gone. His hump is gone. And he's like, I know. He's like, his brother and his dad, they both have that hump. He's had that hump forever.
Wow.
And I was like, does he live over there? Is he in one of your houses? He said, no. Mikey, man, he's like, Mikey can't stay clean. He's like, he was in our house, but we kicked him out. And he's actually been sleeping on our porch for the last month because we won't let him in the house. But I was like, dude, what an awesome story. There's this kid literally, for some reason, is stuck around and slept on the porch of this recovery house that happened to be right across the street from the tent that we put up. That happened to be right across from where he was walking around. You know what I'm saying? When he got caught. And look what God did. Ian,
a lot of people,
wow,
like listening to Through the Black or some of our shows, they want to get involved, but they want to kind of get involved on their own terms. Okay. And, I don't know who I'm speaking to tonight. Maybe somebody that's listening out there. And we get a lot of people that are like, oh, I want to, I've been listening to Russ Dizdar, Through the Black, or, somebody else. And this is what I'm called to, or whatever. I don't necessarily want to go to another country, or, satanic ritual abuse. I want to help people doing that. And that's great. And we appreciate that. And we need people doing that.
Yeah.
But this is cutting edge. This is an opportunity. We mentioned things that we can do. And a lot of times people are not interested. Even tonight, I would say our numbers are down from what we normally have, because people are interested in the darker stuff. They want to hear those stories. Okay. They're not interested in hearing, somebody, the homeless getting helped. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I can tell you a story.
This is cutting edge. This is spiritual warfare.
Dude, it is.
What we teach.
And you know what? If you want to hear cutting edge, I can tell you about this conversation I had with a guy. And it was not even him that was talking to me. It was the Prince Aries, some type of demonic spirit prince thing. And it was literally telling me the strangest things. And it had me super uncomfortable. I'll say that. And it happened right in the Dream Center, the very first day it opened, in the lunchroom, right? So it's like this is our first day feeding people in the lunchroom. This dude sits. I see him. I know who he is, right? And he's not crazy. He was in one of my Bible studies, okay? But he's also been into a lot of drugs, and he's supposedly in recovery, right? So he's in recovery. I know that. We went through this Bible study for the last 12 weeks, and he's very talkative in the Bible study, right? He's very interactive because he's a smart dude, right? He's just got a bad stuff on him. We're sitting there, and I see him in the parking lot walking around, like down the street. And I notice him because I'm like, the rest of the guys in his recovery house are on a camping trip. He should be there. What's he doing in the street? So I call him. He comes over. I'm like, what are you doing, man? He's like, I got kicked out. I'm like, you want to talk about it? He's like, yeah. So we bring him in. He's got a backpack on, which I didn't care because I know him, right? Well, then when we get in the chair and I start talking to him, his name, I'm not going to say his name, but I start talking to him by his name. And he literally staring me straight in the eyes with his black eyes, and he's like, you're not talking to that, you're talking to me. And I was like, no, I'm talking to, I kept saying, like, what are you talking about, dude? And because his voice didn't change or anything, but he literally just started laughing and being it was super creepy, man. But then he just started saying things that I was thinking and weird stuff. You know what I mean? It was like completely not a normal thing. And then I was like, who am I talking to? And then he's like, you know who I am? And then I didn't know who he was. And I was like, no, I don't know who you are. And I was playing it like, I really didn't know who he was, but it probably came off like sarcastically, I don't care who you are. Like, this is some kind of weird game. But he got kind of ticked. And so he started getting violent and like getting in my face. Like, he wasn't violent, but the way he was speaking was violent, if that makes any sense. Like, he kept saying, if you don't stop what you're doing, I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt these people. And it was like, I knew he meant it. You know what I mean? And I was like, I'm looking around like, this is our first freaking day. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sitting in the middle table with a psychopath with a backpack on, that's telling me if I don't stop doing whatever the heck I'm doing, he's going to hurt all these people, And so I'm just like, oh, okay. So we just talk, and I keep trying to talk to the other guy. I keep calling him back, and I'm like, come here, talk to me. And he's like, he's not allowed to talk to you anymore. He's not allowed to do this anymore. He's not allowed. And I'm like, well, finally another guy sees the uncomfortable look on my face because I'm trying to figure out, how am I going to get this guy to leave? It's pretty much, I don't know what he's got in his bag. I have no idea what kind of drug he's on. This is the first day, I brought him in here because I thought I knew him. It was a bad situation, but he comes over, and this guy, I think he sensed it. He sat down and he said, hey, don't I know you? And the guy, the demonic spirit started laughing. He's like, you don't know me, but I know you and all that. He's like, no, I know you, man. He's like, you're we baptized you. And he starts talking to the other guy and saying all this stuff and like would not stop. He just kept bringing up all the stuff that they did, we baptized you that day. Remember you went and we had that conversation about this and you were talking about that. The guy starts doing this. Then he starts like tears are coming out of his eyes. And it's like the kid is crying, but the demon is speaking. It was very bizarre. And then he's like, come here, man. I want to pray with you. So come over here and we're going to pray. Let's go in this other room. And the guy's like, no, I'm leaving. And he just grabbed his bag and walked out. And he told me to call him. He's like, call me. I was like, what? Like, you just told me you were going to kill everyone. And now you want me to call you? Like, it was just bizarre, man. But like that kind of stuff happens a lot, dude. It happens all the time. So if you're waiting for like some satanic cult to come out and wave a flag in your neighborhood and be like, we're right here, it ain't going to happen. The only way you meet them is when you're doing something and you're aware of what's happening. I mean, there's been a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, even with, I'm not going to talk about the situation, but even just in my personal job, I was led to a person's house to do work who happened to be a victim of SRA. And I didn't know it until I recognized some of the books and things in her room and just asked her, and then it came out, you know what I mean? And it was like, now I'm fully equipped to help this person get help. And God knew that. And that's why I'm here. You know what I mean? So like being aware and having knowledge and all that stuff, it's only good if you're out there doing something or being useful.
And
when
Ian, Russ would teach us all the time. We're not looking strictly for victims of SRA. We're looking for anybody that we can preach the gospel to, that we can reach. We don't care if it's the guy at the gas station or the guy in the coven or whoever. We want to reach them. So, yeah, amazing.
And I'm telling you, the first time you see, like a lot of times you'll pray for somebody and you don't get to see what happens, you don't know if it worked or not. But the times you do, the times that it's happened to me that I've been able to see what God has done, or even later, at a later date, I run into them again and they tell me, your prayer. And when I prayed, I didn't think it was special. I didn't feel any, you know what I mean? I didn't do anything. And I probably felt more uncomfortable than they did when I was praying over their issue. And then they tell me that prayer changed everything. And you're like, what? And it's like, that's why we do it. We believe that, but sometimes you need that affirmation a couple times. But then when you get addicted to that, then you start to realize my prayers do work. And it's not because of me, right? It's because God is specifically, Joel used to tell us when we would pray before we got started every night, he would be like, you're the answer to somebody's prayer. They've been praying for years. You are the vessel that God's going to use tonight to meet that need because you said yes and you're here. So be conscious of that when you go out, that these people have been asking God to send somebody and you are them. And I remember hearing that and it being like, wow. And then when you start to see it, you're like, I am that, like God is using us. And it doesn't even look like I thought it looked. It doesn't involve conspiracies. It doesn't, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't involve any of that stuff. They don't ask me any questions. It's all that stuff is meant for you to understand your identity. And then the conspiracies are just lies. That, you know what I'm saying? Like these things that are happening, they're either true or they're not. And you discern that by having a close relationship with the truth, the truth, right? And the other thing is one of the things that is super powerful this is all you need to know when you go do evangelism. You don't need to know Bible verses. I mean, it helps. You don't need to know all that stuff. You don't need to memorize things. Or what you need to realize is that you carry peace with you. If you have Jesus in your heart and he lives in you and you carry the Holy Spirit, which is power, you carry peace, right? And in Hebrew, shalom means the authority that binds chaos. Okay, it's far more than just having comfort, right? You have authority to calm storms, and that's the thing. It's like these people in the street, they don't know what you have to offer. They don't know, like they don't even have that much time to talk to them really. Well, the things that they don't have that you do have is peace and hope and authority, right? And those things, you can change their life in 1 second if you use it right.
So,
And they will never forget it. They will come up and be like, I don't know what happened when I was by you, but I felt peace and I felt this, and I don't know what it is, but I want more of it. And that's why they come back, because they don't know why they're coming back, but they know that something is different when they're around us, you know? And that's it. That's all you do.
people are asking about the Dream Center, where it's at. Dayton, Ohio, the Dream Center and Simple Street is where all this ministry started. The testimonies you've been hearing Ian talk about. So
there is several of the other Dream Centers. They're not affiliated. They're all the same type of idea, and they do pretty much. They're a lot different. Like there's one in LA that is in a hospital. It's like an old, it's humongous. And obviously they have a lot more resources there. It's 20 some years old. They have housing. They have like interns and all kinds of, it's a crazy huge thing out there. Ours is not that level yet. There is one in Columbus as well, Tom.
okay.
There's a dream center in Columbus, but you know, there needs to be one everywhere. But I know it's hard, but like we said, you know, you don't need to have the nicest amenities and all the stuff. Like the reason we put $4,000 is just that's how much it costs to renovate it. But what our pastor told one of the guys when we were doing, we were out on the street, is the guy's like, why in the world would you put that much money into an old crappy building like this? And he said, we believe you're worth it. This is what the Lord does in our lives. And we wanted this. He always fixes us from the inside first. And we wanted to model what happens. You know, so we want you to be in awe when you come into this old, crappy building. We want you to be in awe of what the Lord does from the inside. And the guy was like, oh, you know, like, oh, okay. But you don't always get to explain that stuff. But people are starting to know the name Dream Center, and they're starting to hear it. And, you know, it will get bigger for sure. And it's, you know, it's a skeleton crew, because even though it's such an awesome ministry opportunity, it's really hard for people. It's a volunteer. So it's really hard to get people to actually commit, you know, to something like that. We're used to committing to Sundays, right? I'll do the children's church, or I'll do this for 2 hours on Sunday. But when it's like every single Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to be here doing this. And then obviously if they don't show up, we have to get somebody, you know what I mean? And there's background checks and things like that you have to do, because we want a safe environment. We don't want to have stuff that we can avoid, you know? So it's complicated, but it needs to happen. But there's ways to do it without all that. Like just have a building that, you know, we're looking to have more buildings. We want buildings that we can use for warming centers in the winter. Just, hey, I'll show up and I'll stay there for, 8 hours if somebody comes after me. And all I do is just sit in there. I got some cots, some coffee, hot chocolate, whatever it is, just to get out of the weather and sit down. That, you know what I mean? And then I'll talk to you. We have worship music playing in the background. You know what I mean? Change the atmosphere for these people a little bit. And that's enough. If you have an abandoned warehouse and you're not making any, no one's in it, and maybe you can look at renting it or giving it to a charity to use during the day just to keep somebody in it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And this is the kind of ideas that nobody really thinks about, but we know them now. And so we're bringing them up to people like, hey, what are you going to do with that? That garage that you were using for your business that you're not doing anymore. Are you going to use it? Can we pay you like $200 and use it on Friday nights to do something through? And they're like, yeah, it's better than nothing. You know what I mean? And you can do it. When there's a will, there's a way. You just got to be creative,
Vicky Joy, I have a final question, but I want to give you a chance to jump in there and ask any question. So tonight we are talking with a born again hooligan. In the show notes, we will have links to what he's talking about, Simple Street and the Dream Center. All that stuff will be down there. Ian is going to be present at the Out of the Darkness conference coming up in just a couple months, and ministry is going to be taking place. We're telling people, if you want prayer, if you want ministry, come on out to this conference as well. Vicky.
We've been talking a lot about our calling and missing our calling, and we know that the enemy is a thief and he likes to steal. And, as you were talking, Ian, I was thinking about the 40 days in the wilderness when Jesus was fasting and Satan came to him, and what he was in essence trying to do there is rob him of his calling. He came down to earth for one purpose, and that was to die. And so Satan wasn't just trying to get him to eat food or to break his fast or whatever. He was legitimately trying to steal his calling. And the devil's only got a couple tricks up his sleeve. And so I'm just really glad that you brought that element out, because I think a lot of us, we tend to think we either don't know our calling or we just need resources or maturity before we come into it. But I don't think we really realize how much spiritual warfare is involved in getting to point A to point B. Like, a lot of why it takes us so long to fulfill our calling, it's not just anxiety or fear or low self-esteem. That is warfare all along the way. And we have to be aware of that and be fighting that and taking those thoughts captive, because if the enemy can steal from us the purpose that we are put on this earth, that's what he's all about doing.
That's right.
Amen.
You declare the promises over your life. I mean, that's the thing. You have to put them so deep inside you that, and I learned this from my friend Butch, who's part of Simple Street, but he was a violent offender, big time. He had, like, I think 7 or 8 assault charges that were felonies. I mean, he had some serious drug charges. He was going away for 25, saved in prison, and he decided to fight it all, go to trial, right? Because he's like, I don't want to go to life, and this is the only way. And he just started pleading with God, get me out of this, and I'll serve you, and I'll do these things. And he's like, but then as I became a believer, throughout the trial, he's like, I just kept thinking, God was putting me at peace with it. Like, I didn't feel shame. I didn't feel sorrow and guilt over all these things. Like, I knew that, God had my back no matter what. Even if I had to do a life sentence, I was at peace. Right. And he's like, it's that when they went to trial, the feds put everything on this one charge. And then when they got to trial, the witness couldn't identify him. So he only got 8 years. So he spent 8.5 years in prison. But when he got out, he said, all I did was I read the Bible and put it in my heart. And he's got these little tiny books by somebody Capps, the Charles Capps. You should look them up, man. They're powerful little booklets. But they give them to you in prison. And they're all about, like, taking authority with your, speaking with authority and God's healing power and all these different little things, Charles Capps. And he's like, there's one about finances. There's one about these. He's like, I ate these things every day. I studied the word. I put it in my heart. It became me. This dude will quote like he's a powerhouse, man. And he comes out and we ride together everywhere. And literally people know him because he wasn't a drug dealer. He beat the crap out of the drug dealers and robbed them and took all their stuff. Like, he was that kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like, wow. They did all the stuff. He robbed them. He's like, we tie him up, beat the crap out of him, shoot, do stuff with him. It's like stuff like that. But he's completely reformed, but everyone knows him. And there was this one time where we were on the stage. We went to this community event, and we were going to wash the feet of the city officials, like the mayor and all these people, if they would let us. Right? And Butch comes out, and there's a cop, like a sheriff or whatever, right on the stage next to the mayor. And he sees Butch and, like, grabs his gun. Okay? And Butch is like, whoa, like, hey, man, I'm a believer. I turned my life around. I did my time. I'm okay, all that stuff. And the guy was the cop that Butch put in the hospital. Like, he beat him to a pulp. And this cop's like, are you serious, like, right now? Because obviously we're at an event where we're trying to wash their feet, right? So it's just got to be like the most shocking thing you've ever seen, right? this guy just put me in the hospital, tried to kill me. Now he wants to wash the mayor's feet for Jesus. Like, but it ended up being that cop was a Christian too. He just couldn't believe that Bush was a Christian, right? So he was like, you can't walk. And Bush apologized to him, and in front of people, he was just like, I'm sorry for what I did. I let stuff. I hope you forgive me. I'd like to wash your feet. And the dude's like, he's like, I'm on duty, but I'll give you a hug. And so they hugged. But it was like this huge, powerful moment, And now we see things like, Butch is like my buddy, man. We all went together and we were working together. But this guy speaks life over everyone. And, that's the thing about understanding who you are. You just need to know your identity and what God's called you to do. And this is something I want to say about your, what were we saying about your calling and what were you saying right before that? You mentioned the phrase about your destiny. That's what it was.
Oh, okay.
So you don't need to know your destiny because you're never going to know all the miraculous things, but there are things in your life that once you stop believing what the devil says about you, and just all these thoughts that come in when you're taking them captive, you're running them through the scripture. So if you don't know the scripture and you don't know, if you feel some certain way, go look up on Google, for the love of God, right? And say scriptures on this and just see if your emotions and your feelings line up with what the Bible says about you. Okay. If it doesn't, then it's a lie. And I'll tell you one, when I was a kid growing up, I was always like, I just did things on a whim, right? It would just be like, yeah, I'm doing that right now. Like, and I would just do it. And I never had a plan. I never did any of that. Right. And all the adults in my life would always say, listen, you're going to have to grow out of this quick because you can't do this when you're an adult. You have to learn to plan. You have to learn to do these things. You need to have goals for your life. Like they'd be like, what are you going to do when you graduate? I'd be like, I don't know. All these things I didn't know. I was just going to roll and see what happened. Right. Well, I started to feel down on myself because I started feeling like maybe something's wrong with me. Like I literally can't plan. I have the worst time thinking things like that. Like I just rather put myself in a spot and try to get out. You know what I mean? Like ask for forgiveness later and work it out. And, but then as the Lord started to reveal things in my, my character and these things started to come forward, I realized like one of my strongest giftings, I believe, is the gift of faith. Because I don't need to know. Like, I don't even think about a lot of the things that most people think about. I just do it, like I make that quick decision. And once I've made it, that's it. Like, I'm just going to go do it. So like the Bible says, what can you add to your life for worrying? Like you can't even add a day to your life worrying about tomorrow or whatever. And it says, why worry about tomorrow? You're not even promised it, right? You live for the day. So I literally wake up and no matter what my problems are, it's hard to do sometimes, but I maintain that majority on average, I'm doing this. I think my problem will still probably be here tomorrow, right? If it is, cool, whatever, I'll deal with it tomorrow. But today, this is what I have to do. Like God's told me to do this. This is what's on my plate. I'm doing this. Whatever happens tomorrow is tomorrow. You know what I mean? And you just think about like survival mode is if I can make it through today, and it's like a mindset that you have to get in. And these people that live on the street, I realized this when I started interacting with them, they live like this. They don't even know if they're going to wake up. So they are kind to each other. They take care of each other. I've seen more sharing and just unbelievable kindness from them in their community than I have ever in my life throughout all the middle class or, the people that I surround myself with normally. It's like, we don't get it, but they actually get this kingdom mindset of, man, the book of Acts where it says, every man, it says they get, it's Acts 2:42 is where it begins, but it says they gathered in the apostles' houses and they studied. They broke bread, they fellowshiped, and they prayed. And then it says, and every man sold his belongings so no one was with a need. And then it says, and the Lord added to their numbers daily. So that's the model. right? But it says right there in the middle, everyone sold their belongings so that no one had a need, right? That's like a community thing, right? It's not communism. It's I love you. I have enough for me, or I can go without today so that you can go with, so I'll be all right, and they do it so well. And it's unbelievable. It breaks my heart because it's like, you're just thinking like, how come I don't think like this? Like I've been one thing and then I'm done telling stories, but I worked a couple guys from the recovery group and they don't have any money in their they're trying to get clean, but they're not allowed to make any money. And they're, you know what I mean? They're just living with food stamps in at this recovery house and they have nothing but a twin bed with a couple things in a backpack, and they were allowed to work with me because I have a relationship with the people now. And I take them to work and I paid them for the day and I paid them a good wage for the day. And they were so pumped. They got a tip also from the lady we were working for. They were so pumped up, man. We went to lunch and we went to this strip where there's a ton of restaurants. And I was like, pick wherever you want, man. We're going to go bash some lunch, right? And they're like, we never had any of these. Like, they never even been out to eat because they're so poor and, just spend all their money on drugs. And they're like, what's good? So I took them to City Barbecue. You ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Okay. So they were loving that, man. They were like bashing it. So it was kind of expensive, which was fine with them. They were like, it was totally worth it. We leave and there's a guy with a sign saying homeless vet, all that stuff. And he's got a dog. Literally, these guys both give him the rest of their money. The tip money, and it was a good tip. It was like $100. They both give it to him, and they're like, take care, buddy, all that stuff. And then they get back in my car, and then they called their friends on the way home, and they're like, anybody need anything from the store? He's going to run us by the store because I guess on EBT you get food, but you don't get like deodorant and soaps and stuff. So they were going to use their money to buy everyone in their house soap. And I was just like in the car driving, feeling terrible, like. I didn't give the homeless guy no money. You know what I'm saying? Like, why don't I think about stuff like this? Why don't I look in my wallet and say, man, I have a lot of extra money today. I should just give it to somebody. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of stuff that happens to me all the time. And it's constantly like making me somebody different. And I don't want to not do it. You know what I mean? Because as hard as it is to go through that and to see what it's doing to you, it's so rewarding. Because when it breaks off of you, these things change you for good. Like, I don't think I can ever look at things the same way. And so I would just challenge you to do something. If it feels uncomfortable, it's probably the right thing to do. And that's just the easiest thing I can say.
And I can identify with that story and what you just said so much. Yeah, I don't know. Just amazing testimony, amazing fruit of what's been going on in that ministry and in your life. And it's really cool to see God using you in a different way. And I mean, before it was bringing exposure and, edification to the church. And now just in the trenches, literally. Spiritual warfare, literally. This is spiritual warfare ministry. Excuse me. Can you give the websites to the Simple Street and Dayton Dream Center?
Yeah. Simple Street is, you can follow us on Facebook. It's Facebook at Simple Street Ministry or Simple Street. I can't remember which one it is. Simple Street Ministry, I believe. You'll know it's a logo. We'll put the logo somewhere. Actually, I have it on my shirt. I'll show you the logo. This is the logo for Simple Street. You'll see that. And then the website is simplestreet.net. And then the Dayton Dream Center is daytondreamcenter.org. Yeah, that was like a back page what you just pulled up there. But daytondreamcenter.org is the website for that. And if you are in the area and you do want to, get involved in that in some way, you just do it online. There, you get the process started. And Simple Street, you can message us on there on Facebook. You can send us emails, simplestreetministry.or@gmail, or you can just get a hold of me. If you're not friends with me on Facebook, I'd love to be your friend. Just message me and tell me you saw me on this show and all that stuff. And I really appreciate you guys. I love you, Vicky and Tom, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again when you come to Dayton, Brookville for the thing in March. It's going to be cool, man. There's a lot of dudes in Dayton that have some awesome stuff. Like Pastor Neil is super cool, man. And dude, God is forming a serious force here, dude. There's some crazy stuff going to happen, and I can tell you some other
good things, happening down in Dayton, down in Brookville. Pastor Neil, like you mentioned, what an amazing guy. He, just the opportunity to come down there to do this conference. It's been a long time coming. So, guys, ministry is going to take place March 31st, April 1st. Ian's going to be there. Our team's going to be there. The Shatter Ops team is going to be there. Coach Dave, Mike Spalding. Okay. But you guys can check that out. Throughtheblack.com is the website. Ian, we appreciate you so much. And thank you so much just for sharing these amazing testimonies of what God's doing and in the ministry down there. And with you, it's exciting. And obviously we know this is just the beginning. So what a powerful ministry. Praise God. Guys, hey, if you haven't done it yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. Subscribe to the channel, share the show. People need to hear this stuff, and people need to see that God is still healing people and saving people. And this is where we take the training, right? The things that we learn, Russ Disdar's courses, the things that we talk about on Through the Black. This is where we take it. We take it to the streets. But hey, don't forget tomorrow night, Colleen's going to be here. The show is called The Reclamation of a Witch. Make sure you hang out tomorrow night. And coming up in a couple of days is going to be the Audiotopsy and Pastor Sean on Saturday night and Colleen talking about disappearing children. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us. We will see you soon. All right.